Hello! In the previous video, I have shared with you about the things you should know before we start discussing Dear Mr. Kilmer. And this is the first part of understanding events in Dear Mr. Kilmer and analysis. So yes, we will analyze important events in this novel. My dear viewers, I really appreciate it if you can subscribe to my channel by clicking the subscribe button, and if you like the content of this video, then please click that like button and do share this video with your friends as well as my other videos. In this video, I will cover the first 3 chapters of Dear Mr. Kilmer, which will touch on Richard Knight. We will get to know Richard Knight, and then we will get to know Hannah Shermer, and also an event which I call the Sympathy card incident. Just like most stories, this novel first introduced the main characters at the start of the novel. So the first 2 chapters of this novel actually introduced us to the most important characters, which are Richard Knight and Hannah Shermer. Why is it important that the characters were first introduced in the first 2 chapters? We will see as we go through. And as we were introduced to these 2 characters, we learn their characteristics and why they are important in this novel, as I mentioned earlier. Richard was first introduced in chapter 1. At the start of the novel, we see that Richard and his family, or rather with the males in the family, which is Pa and Gus, they went on a hunting party. Okay, party here does not mean party, you go dancing around. No, not that one. Hunting party simply means that a group of people going on a hunt. They go to hunt deers or any other animals. So basically, kumpulan untuk memburu, right? Hunting, untuk memburu. So this event, this small event where we are introduced to Richard, started with a hunting party. So they went to a forest to hunt deers, right? Why is it so? Because it is a family tradition, a coming of age tradition to prove that Richard has become a man. So, for example, in Malaysia, right, among the Muslims, to show or to prove that a boy finally become a man, then that boy needs to, perlu berkhatan or bersunat, buat kata orang utara, right? So, for Richard's family, the Knight family, right? For the Knights, they need to go on a hunting party and kill their first deer. When they succeeded, then they have proved that they have finally become a man. This is something normal for people back then, when hunting was a sport, was something that people do to fill their free time. So, how? By killing his first deer. So, this is how Richard should prove that he has become a man, which is to kill his first deer. When they were in the forest, they spotted a beautiful buck, right? They spotted a beautiful buck, and Richard was supposed to kill it. However, Richard did not kill his first buck. But before that, what is a buck? Buck is a male deer. Male deer looks like this. It's so majestic, it's so beautiful. Remember, animals, normally the beautiful ones are the males. So male deers have horns, ada tanduk. Rusa betina tak ada tanduk. So Richard did not kill his first buck. Why? He purposely missed the shot. Dia saja-saja tembak tak kena. Why did he do this? Right? The reason is because Richard hates violence. Right? Richard hates violence. He is not like other men. He hates violence. He doesn't kill animals. He doesn't like to kill animals. In fact, in the novel, it says that Richard still remembers the time when his grandfather killed deer. Because before this, Richard followed the hunting party. When he was still a young boy, he followed the hunting party and he saw his grandfather killed a deer, and his heart bled. His heart, bleeds for it. His heart could not take it. He felt so sad remembering the beautiful deer killed by his grandfather. So looking at this buck, Richard could not kill it. So he purposely missed the shot. So what is the significance of this event? It looks small, isn't it? Well, it is important. It is significant. Let's see why. When Richard did not kill his first buck, Gus was mocking him. Just like any older brothers. I'm sure if you have an older brother or an older sister, you would understand this situation. Normally, when you fail to do something, they would belittle you. They would mock you. Mereka akan memperkecilkan kamu. Right? They would say something like, alah, ini pun tak reti buat ke? Right? Something like that. Like, you can't even do this. I did this when I was much younger than you. Does it sound familiar to you? Yes, and that's exactly what Gus said to Richard. I killed my first buck when I was much younger than you. Simply suggesting that, Richard is useless. Richard is no good. That's what Gus is trying to say, right? Just like our older siblings, they would belittle us. Not really in a bad way. It's just, siblings rivalry. Biasalah adik-beradik kan. Abang kakak mesti nak lebih punya. So that's what Gus did. But Pa is different. Alright, Pa is different. Pa is a very level-headed, very nice man. Even though he's quiet, he's a very nice man. Instead of getting angry at Richard, like Gus did, Pa asked Richard, so Richard, why did you not kill the buck? Why did you let it go? Why did you misfire? Why did you purposely misfired? So Richard here, he has two choices. One is to lie to Pa, and the second one is to tell the truth. Which one do you normally do? If I am afraid of my own father, I would tell a lie. But Richard here, he did not lie. He confessed to Pa. He told Pa, I hate killing animals. I don't like killing animals. So he is an honest person. So here we can see that Richard is honest. He is honest when he told Pa that he hates violence. And Richard is very kind. He hurts just to see animals getting killed. And what's more important is Richard bravely defended his principle. Okay, prinsip hidup. Okay, so Richard hates violence. And here, even though it's a family tradition, family tradition is something that you should do. But Richard bravely go against it because he believes that he should not kill animals. He believes that he should be kind. So he would go against his own family tradition He was brave. So here from this, just by a simple event at the start of the novel, we can already see that Richard is honest, kind, and brave. After the hunting party, Richard got back home and he helped Angie in the kitchen to clean the dishes, right? To clean the dishes. Cuci pinggan, cuci, right? Clean the plates and everything. So, by the way, Angie is Richard's eldest sister. Angie is the eldest in the family among the three siblings. She's the eldest sister, kakak sulung, and she did not get much education. So, why is this Richard helping Angie is important? I will explain later. And then after that, Richard got back to his room and he wrote poem. Okay, Richard wrote poem and he wrote his poem in secrecy, meaning he did it secretly, secara berahsia. Why? Why? We will see it later. But how we know that he did it secretly? Because he kept his poem in a locked drawer. So he kept it in his drawer dalam laci and then he locked it, dia kunci. So if you keep something in your drawer and you locked it, don't you think that it's a secret you don't want people to find out? And not only that, Richard actually burned the draft of his poem. He did not want anyone to know at all that he wrote poem. So what do these tell us? Let's see. These two events tell us something important. It tells us that Richard is different than other men. How is he different? In fact, the hunting party earlier also tells us the same thing, that Richard is different than other men. Why? Because poetry and doing house chores were considered feminine. Okay, considered feminine. If you have watched my previous video about the things that you should know and understand before understanding the novel, I have explained in length about how gender roles were very important in early 1900. How gender roles were important and also very heavily implemented. Nowadays, it's not the same anymore. I mean, today, anyone and everyone can love and appreciate poetry. And today, anyone and everyone should and can do house chores. Doesn't matter you're a man or you're a woman, you can do house chores. No more such thing as kitchen is where the women belong. That's the old school way of thinking. Cara kolot, cara orang dulu-dulu fikir. Right? And this novel was set in early 1900s. Okay, tahun 1900. Awal 1900. So that's why during that time, people then and there think that if you are a man, you don't do house chores. You leave it to the woman of the family, right? So that's why Richard was different than other men. As for poetry, poetry is a fine art, seni halus. So that's why in this novel, poem is called sissy stuff. Well, not everyone called it sissy stuff though. Only Gus, Richard's brother, he thinks that he is so manly, right? And also Richard's classmates. Later, we will see, most probably in our next video. No, it's in this video. Yes. And, right, they call poem sissy stuff. So what does sissy mean? Sissy means feeble or weak, lemah, effeminate, macam perempuan, or cowardly. Basically, the word sissy means unmanly. So if you are a man and someone calls you sissy, then that's an insult, right? Dalam bahasa Melayu kita panggil apa? Bapuk, something like that, right? So it's something considered as an insult. So sissy stuff, that's how much the men then, or rather those who are very shallow-minded, those who are very close-minded, right? Fikiran tak terbuka, that's how they consider poems. So earlier we have been introduced to Richard Knight. In chapter 2, at the start of chapter 2, we were introduced to another important character. Not the main character, but she plays a very important role in this novel. This novel doesn't happen if she is not around, alright? And she is Hannah Shermer. Hannah was first introduced in this novel when Richard found her crying in the hallway. What is a hallway? Well, if you have seen any movies about schools in America, you would understand that they have classes in a building on the left and on the right, and they have this one wide area in the middle where they keep their lockers, their thing, right? So that area is a hallway. Okay, it's like a hall, but actually it's a pathway, laluan. Okay, laluan macam dewan tu, the hallway, right? So Hannah was found crying in the hallway. So why did she cry? Because her book cover, kulit buku dia, was scribbled with dirty hand. Okay, dirty hand. Okay, if you have not watched my first video, my previous video, go and watch it, because I have explained in length about what is a han. Okay, so dirty han, right? Think of it as like perempuan kotor, right? But it's more than that, right? Dirty here means kotor, not kotor as in bilik yang kotor, but you know, when you say someone is dirty, it's an insult, especially if she is a woman, right? That woman is dirty. You don't say that to any woman, right? It's wrong, right? You know, when you say that a woman is dirty, it has very deep layers of meaning. So you don't say that to any woman. Not only that, somebody wrote on Hannah's book saying dirty Han. Bukan saja kotor, but Han. Han back then was an insult to anyone with German blood. So that's the reason why Hannah was bullied. Because she was different. She was a German American. What does it mean? It means that she has German blood, keturunan German, but she was born and she lived in America, right? She was an American citizen, rakyat Amerika berbangsa Jerman. So for example, if let's say you, a Malay, live in America, then you might be called a Malay American. If you are a Chinese, then you are a Chinese American. If you're an Indian, then you are an Indian American. So Hannah, yes, she has German blood, but she was just like everybody else. She was German, she was an American, but only that she has German blood, right? The detail of this story goes furthermore. Richard saw Hannah crying, and then Richard told his friend, or rather his classmates. So who were there? Who were the ones Richard told about this? Richard told this to Abner, Harry, and also Blanche. And what happened was, these three kids said that Hannah deserved it. Padan muka Hannah. Something like that, right? They were very terrible. They badmouthed Hannah. They said she deserved it. She's a German spy and a lot other terrible things. And Richard scolded them. Richard scolded them saying that, how unpatriotic of you to say this. This is so unpatriotic. You should not say that she's an American citizen just like any one of us. Right? So Richard defended Hannah. So why is this small event important? Why is it so? Have you guessed? Did you see anything in common? So the significance of what I have shared earlier, right? Richard Knight and Hannah Shermer are the main characters, and all upcoming events revolve around them. They will be involved in all important events. And they share one similarity. Ada satu persamaan antara kedua-dua watak. What is it? They are both social misfits. Okay, what does it mean? Misfit is a person who is different and does not fit in with others. Yang bermaksud seseorang yang pelik, yang tidak bergaul dengan orang lain. That's why social misfit. If you say a person is a misfit, then maybe that person has physical disability. But if a person is a social misfit, meaning she or he is different because of her or his inability to social with others, to fit in, untuk bergaul dengan orang lain, right? So it means Richard and Hannah both are different from others. The only difference is that, number one, well, of course, they are of different gender. You don't have to mention that, and that is not important, right? But there is one difference, which is Richard chose to be a social misfit, right? He chose it. He wanted to be different because he was different. He wanted to be different because that's how he was. Memang diri dia macam tu. So he chose to be different. And not many of us are like that. I mean, are brave enough to be like Richard. Sometimes we gave in. We gave in the best part of ourselves because we wanted to be accepted by others. Little did we know that other people's approval is not that important as long as we love ourselves and we be the best of ourselves, the best version of ourselves, right? So Richard chose to be different, but Hannah did not choose to be different. She was born different. So Hannah is is a victim. Hannah adalah mangsa keadaan. So she was different because of the circumstances. So she was different because she was born a German American. Do you think if she could choose, she would choose to be born a German American? Most probably not, because she would get bullied, right? Many of us might think the same thing, right? If I can choose, I don't want to be this. I don't want to be born like this because people don't like me like this, things like that. But well, in reality, we should accept whoever we are and love ourselves, right? Well, side advice there, right? Okay, so basically the significance is that Richard Knight and Hannah Shermer, they are different. Okay, that is the similarity, and because they are different, they were attracted to one another. And we will see this throughout the novel. Earlier, we looked at character defining events, small events that tell us about characteristics, about the values that characters have and show. But now let's look at a character changing event, right? This is a plot changing event. So the first out of the 3 or 4 important events in this novel is what I would like to call the sympathy card incident. So this sympathy card incident is the first long and important event that you should understand, and memorize in order to be able to answer novel question. So this event began when Mrs. Hanson brought a card to her class. Just an ordinary card to her class. Why? Why she brought this card to her class? Because she wanted her students to sign it to show support and sympathy to their fellow classmate Hannah. Do you still remember maybe back then when you were in primary school, you used to, have that notebook, that small notebook, girls especially, where you ask your friends, your classmates to, write about their details, sign and give, quotes, kata-kata semangat and stuff before you finished school in year 6, right? Why do you do that? Because you were sad that you were leaving your friends, right? So think of this card as the same thing, right? It is to show support to their friend Hannah. Why? Why Hannah needs that support? Earlier we saw that Hannah was bullied because she was different. So the same thing happened to her family. So her family tavern, the name is Priory House. This is a German word, right? German word. What is the meaning? I have no idea. I forgot to look it up. But well, you might as well look it up and find out the meaning. But what I know is house. Okay, so the Priory House was vandalized. Okay, vandalized. Kena what is it in BM? Mangsa vandalisme. Kena what happened was dirty hands were painted on the walls. Remember earlier, Hannah, she had her book cover scribbled with dirty hand. That one singular, Han, because that one was directed towards Hannah Shermer alone. But this one, the painting on the walls, conteng atas dinding tu, is written with big, dirty Hans. Meaning, it wanted to say that the Shermers, all of them, everyone in the family, are dirty Han. This is a bad thing to do. Not only that their property was vandalized, they were insulted as well. So if you were Hannah, if you were one of the Shermers, don't you feel sad about it? Don't you feel discouraged about this? So that is why Mrs. Hanson brought the card so that everyone in the class can sign, could sign and show sympathy to Hannah. Think of this as when one of your classmates, for example, right, who had his or her father, parents, for example, just passed away. What normally the school or your class teacher would do? They would pass around tabung kebajikan to collect money to help that person, right? So think of it that way, right? Cara untuk menunjukkan simpati. Right? So this card is to show sympathy to Hannah. Kesian kat Hannah sebab kena bully. Bukan sekali tapi 2 kali. Right? So she lived with discrimination and prejudice. People were prejudiced at her. Oh, by the way, if you were wondering what is a tavern looks like this. So what is a tavern? Tavern is a family-owned eatery, tempat makan, right? So something like restaurant that serves both food and alcohol. So we can say that the Shermers kerja kedai makan lah, toke kedai makan, right? So they own an eatery. When Mrs. Hanson passed the card around the class, okay, many students wanted to sign the card. Okay, you must get this fact right. Many students wanted to sign the card. Mereka nak sign sebenarnya. Alright? For example, in the novel, we were shown that Herbie, this is, the generic character, the generic boy, and Millie, the generic girl. Basically, they are just general character. They are kind of like, the nerds in the novel, right? Budak-budak yang baik je, right? Tak pandai memberontak and stuff like that. So Herbie and Millie, they wanted to sign the card. They wanted to sign the card, but they did not sign the card, right? You must remember not that nobody wanted to sign the card. Salah. Bukannya semua tak mau sign the card. No. They wanted to sign the card. Many of them. Mungkin tak semua, tapi ada yang nak sign, right? There were some students who actually wanted to sign, but they did not sign. Why? Because they were afraid of the troublemakers. Okay, mereka takut dengan budak-budak jahat dalam kelas tu. So, who are these troublemakers? So, again, who are the troublemakers? Well, in every class, there must be troublemakers. Mesti ada geng-geng something, right? And in Richard's class, ada something lelaki, ada something perempuan, alright? So, the first ones are Abner and Harry. Okay, Abner and Harry, they are the alpha males. What I mean by alpha males meaning budak-budak lelaki yang lelaki-lelaki lain, budak-budak lelaki lain takut dengan mereka. Takut dengan mereka. Alright? So, Abner and Harry are the alpha males. While the girls are Peggy and Blanche. Some of my students would say Blanche. Right? So, Peggy and Blanche. Who are these? Girls also have the alpha girls, but they don't call them as alpha. But these are the popular beauty queens, right? Among the girls, normally the prettiest one usually is the one in control, right? Because they are so pretty, so that every other girls wanted to be friends with them. That's just how girls things work. Well, we men may not understand it, but that's how girls do things, right? They want influence, so they need to be friends with popular people. Okay, so the other students were afraid to sign the card because they were afraid of the troublemakers. So what did the troublemakers do? Well, they threatened the other students. Threaten means ugut, right? Mereka ugut pelajar-pelajar lain. They threaten the other students. How? Abner and Harry would beat up the boys who signed. Budak lelaki mana yang sign siap kena belasah dengan Abner and Harry. So that's why the other boys were afraid to sign the card. Remember, I mentioned in my previous video, boys and men were expected to be violent. So this is how Abner and Harry solved their problems, through violence, but not Richard. Richard does not like violence, right? So Abner and Harry, they don't like anyone, they go and beat them up. Tak suka orang belasah. Tak suka orang belasah. That's how they do. But girls, they don't use physical violence. So Peggy and Blanche pula sama macam my students. So Peggy and Blanche, how they threaten the other students. Remember, girls don't like violence. They don't do things violently physically. They do things psychologically. So these popular queens would boycott the girls who signed. Right? Imagine you are a girl and the other girls boycott you. That would leave a psychological scars. Right? So the other students, the other girls, they were afraid of this boycott. So that's why they did not sign the card. Well, many students wanted to sign the card, but nobody signed the card except Richard. Well, he's the main character, so he was the only brave one to sign the card. So Richard stood up for what is right. So here we can see how Richard is someone who does the right thing. Doesn't matter if he get into consequences that he doesn't like. He doesn't bother about it. He just do what he thinks is right. So Richard thinks that it's not right not to sign the card. the right thing to do is to sign the card. So Richard stood up for what is right, and he was the only one brave enough to sign the card. So he signed the card and then volunteered to send the card. This is because when Mrs. Hanson saw that there was only one signature on the card, she was disappointed, and she did not feel like sending the card to Hannah anymore. Kan? Macam kalau kamu, right, you have good intention, you want everyone sign, and then only one person sign. Mesti kecewa kan? So Mrs. Hanson felt disappointed, and she did not want to send the card anymore. But Richard, being the main character and the person who does the right thing, he went to Mrs. Hanson and he offered to send the card. And Mrs. Hanson was so proud of Richard. She couldn't be prouder than that, right? So she gave the card to Richard. She entrusted the card to Richard to send it to the Shermers. So Abner and Harry, mereka tak sembang kosong. So, they said that they would beat up anyone who signed. So they did. At least they tried, right? So when Richard was on his way to the Shermers' house, dalam perjalanan ke rumah the Shermers, Abner and Harry tried to stop him. They tried to beat him up because they think, alah, Richard is a sissy boy. Richard lembek je. Richard kan bapuk, so senang je nak pukul. So that's what they think. And boy, they were wrong, right? They tried to stop him. They tried to beat him up. But Richard, one person against two, he defended himself and he won, right? He won the fight. So when they tried to beat Richard, Richard beat them up and Richard almost punched Abner. And here we see something ironic. In this novel, at the start of the novel, we were told that Richard is a sissy because he writes poetry. He is cowardly, pengecut, penakut, lembek, right? But then, now, when Abner and Harry tried to beat him, he beat them up and he almost punched Abner. And this is when Abner begged Richard not to punch him. Abner merayu, Richard, tolong jangan pukul aku. Right. So here, who is the cowardly now? Actually, Abner and Harry, they are all just, talks. Tin kosong, sembang je kuat. Right. Samsing kampung. Tak kuat pun, tak hebat pun. But because the others are afraid of them, they think that they are so great. So Richard, even though he was called a sissy, he is not weak. He is strong. It's just that he hates violence. So he almost beat Abner, and Abner begged not to beat him. And in return, they promised to leave Richard alone. Mereka berjanji untuk tidak kacau Richard lagi. And it seems like a good ending. But no. Dah kalau jahat tu, diorang tetap jahat. They will not stop there. And we will see why. So after Abner and Harry left Richard alone, he finally reached the Shermers' house, and Richard gave the card to Hannah. For your information, this was not easy. When Richard wanted to give the card to Hannah, Hannah at first did not want to take it. Right? She did not want to take it. Right? And she was angry at Richard. And you wonder why. Well, you must remember, Hannah was bullied twice. First, her book cover was scribbled. And then the second one, her tavern was painted with dirty hands. If you were Hannah, I'm sure you would be shaken as well. Mesti akan terasa something, right? Mesti rasa sedih and all that. So Hannah was sad. And when she was sad, she thought that everyone hates her and her family. You remember girls when they break up, what they would say? Lelaki semua sama. Lelaki semua jahat. Right? Girls, when they get emotional, they tend to overgeneralize things like that. So Hannah was like that. So when she was sad, she thought that everyone was the same. Everyone hates her. Everyone hates her family. So this was an awkward situation. So Richard just told Hannah, please take this card. It's from Mrs. Hanson. And yeah, Hannah did take the card. And Hannah actually asked a question to Richard. He asked Richard a question. So Hannah asked Richard, why do people do bad things? Why people do bad things? Kenapa orang buat benda jahat? Kenapa orang tergamak buat benda jahat? And Richard said that it's probably because they were afraid. Mungkin sebab mereka takut. For me, this is a very important moment. Not very much highlighted, but this is a very important moment for us, readers, to take it as a reminder for ourselves. Right? Kenapa orang buat benda yang tak betul? Kenapa orang buat benda jahat? Kerana orang takut. Takut dengan apa? What are they afraid of? They are afraid of things that they don't understand. So, in this situation, why do turtle-leg people do bad things? Why did they, discriminated the Shermans? Why did they do that? It's because they were afraid of the Germans. And they thought that all Germans, including the German Americans, including the Shermans, are bad. So that's why they did the bad thing. And people did not sign the card because they were afraid as well. Right? So this is a very important statement that we all should remember. So Richard gave the card to Hannah. And as a result of this event, there are two results. The first one is Richard became friends with Hannah. Because at first, Hannah was a bit rude to Richard. She did not take the card at first. And she blamed Richard as well. But a few days later, Hannah apologized to Richard. And from there, they became friends. Remember earlier, they were just classmates, but they were not friends. I mean, you have a lot of classmates, but you don't necessarily need to be friends with them, right? Well, you simply exist in the same classroom, but you have to be all, nice with them. So before this event happened, Richard and Hannah were just classmates. But now, because of what happened, they were attracted to one another and they finally became friends. And another consequence is Richard was called Hans lover. Right? Richard dipanggil sebagai kekasih Han. Right? This is a bad thing. Right? This is a bad thing. I mean how Richard did get this name. I mean, if you were caught sending a letter to a girl, right, for boys, don't you think gossips will start? Somebody would start the gossip that, oh, this boy love that girl. Diorang ni mesti couple, mesti kekasih ni, right? So it's something like that. And do you think who started this? Well, it was not stated in the novel, but we can guess who are the culprits. Obviously, those people who couldn't touch Richard. Yes, Abner and Harry. I'm pretty much sure Abner and Harry, because they promised to leave Richard alone. Mereka dah tak boleh nak belasah Richard. So, they started rumors about Richard so that Richard is hated by other people. So these are the two consequences. The first one is a positive consequence where Richard made a new friend. And another one is he was called Hans lover. But do Richard care? No, Richard doesn't care. He doesn't care about what other people say about him. So, as a conclusion for this event, it tells us that prejudice and discrimination were widespread in Turtle Lake due to the war. Right? What is prejudice? Prejudice is a strong feeling of usually hatred towards someone or something because of a certain reason. So here in this situation, the Americans were prejudiced towards the Shermans Because they are German Americans. And why? Because at that time, America was at war with Germany. Perang Dunia Pertama. Remember, in my first video, I have explained this, right? So that is why they have this prejudice. And usually when you are prejudiced towards someone, you will discriminate them, right? And what is discriminate? In BM is discriminasi. And discriminate is to treat other people differently because of certain reasons. So just because they are German Americans, they were being discriminated. They were treated as if they are lesser than other Americans. So, and this was widespread in Turtle Lake. Why? I have explained in my previous video. It's because of the propaganda the American government was spreading so that the Americans would hate the enemy. This is a bad thing, right? The Shermans were victims of this. Mereka adalah mangsa keadaan. So the next one, this event tells us that Richard was brave and determined to stand up for what is right. So another event to highlight Richard's positive qualities. And finally, it marks the beginning of Richard's friendship with Hannah, right? Because there will be other events after this that shows us how this friendship blooms and become tighter, become closer. And we will see it in my next video. In my next video, I will cover two more important events in Dear Mr. Kilmer, which are the first one is sharing of Richard's poems, and also one of the most interesting events in this novel, which is the Liberty Bonds incident. So that's all, folks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your like and subscription. So all the best for your SPM, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.